I don't have a mirror. Does my makeup look okay? I'm just joking. Ha ha ha. So if you didn't know, I started my very own series where I rate and rank animated movies, and episode 1 is already out, with many classics like the Lego Batman movie, Sing 1, Sing 2, and many, many more. So before we dive into today's shenanigans, I hope you check out part 1 because part 2 will make a little bit more sense. Well, okay, enough clowning around. It's time to dive into episode 2. I'm just heading to the fields, Duke. I'll be back. If you couldn't tell by that intro, the very next movie that we'll be talking about today is Barnyard. This movie came out on August 4th, 2006, and it premiered on Nickelodeon. So I definitely did not remember watching this movie at all. Like watching it back, it felt like the very first time ever watching it. And maybe it was, to be honest, but I grew up watching that show. I watched it religiously. Is this movie attention-keeping? Holy cow. Yes, it is. This movie is just so captivating in every single way, from like the barn life to characters in the background just doing silly stuff, the lore overall. It's just a good old time. Did this movie make me laugh out loud? Yes, it did. So many times. Like I said, it's from 2006, and they literally had a Hello Moto ad in it.
Hello, Moto.
That really brought me back. And yeah, there were so many other moments in the movie where I was just like, that's funny. That's funny. Did I cry? Yes, I did. Spoiler, Otis's daddy, Ben, dies, and it is a very sad death. Anyways, the soundtrack. Now, if you don't know about the theme song from Back at the Barnyard, just the Barnyard song, it's rootin' tootin' boot stomping good time. It's so good. It's classic. It's iconic. Going through my head right now. The character designs. Now, I don't think any animated animal movie character design makes sense, but in this one, they all act as normal animals, the way they walk around, eat, talk, whatever. But when the farmer goes inside, the animals are all humanized, and it's so funny. And also, Otis said trans rights.
I remember when I used to sit out here with your sister.
I don't have a sister.
Oh, yeah. That was you, wasn't it?
Oh, thank you. Right?
The world design, you know me, or maybe you don't, but I love the Western vibe. Although it only just looks like a Midwest farm, but that's okay. Any misogyny? No, I honestly didn't pick up on any, which is impeccable. With the human characters, I think there's only the main farmer, the two neighbors, and that one curly-headed kid. All of the humans are white, and I mean, the animals are animals. However, the casting is a bit more diverse. We have the incredibly funny Wanda Sykes, who will be in a lot of these movies. She's just incredible. We also have a guy by the name of Earthquake, which I've never heard of, but that's a cool name to have. Was it memorable? No, like I said, I don't recall watching this movie at all. I think maybe I watched it when it premiered in 2006, but I remembered the show very well. Made for all ages, yes, 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 guys. The jokes in this movie, they're too good. Here is a hilarious moment that I wrote down, so let me see if I can find the snippet. If not, here it is.
He's a vegan. God bless him. And, what is a vegan again?
Oh, I know this one. No, I got it. It means you can't eat anything with a face.
Oh.
No, that's a vegetarian.
Vegetarians have to eat in the dark,
That's
right?
a vampire. Come on. You can't eat cheese?
It's not just cheese. Vegans can't have any dairy product.
This movie was honestly like a fever dream, but in the best way. In the best way. When the humans go to sleep at night and nobody's in the barn, all the animals go out and go wild and they party hard. And there is a scene, I don't know the character's name exactly, but he's like a rapping mouse. That scene took me out. I had to rewatch it 3 times. I was like, I'll play it.
Mr. Bombastic. We want some bombastic, romantic, fantastic lover. She call me Mr. Bombastic, tell me fantastic. Put me on me box, she says I'm Mr. Roll.
When I'm done watching, how do I feel? I really loved watching that movie. I'm gonna say it again. That was like the first time watching the movie, and it was really enjoyable all around. Of course, Daddy Ben's death. That was sad. But everything else was very nice, and I just love all the characters, and it was so nostalgic and just so nice to see everything again and just to go back in time a little. With morals and lessons, I mean, they're just barn animals trying to escape these wolves who are trying to eat them. So that's the plot, basically. But before Daddy Ben passed away, he said this: "A strong man stands up for himself, but a stronger man stands up for others." And I'm like, that is so true. And now the villains. The villain of this movie is Dag, a coyote or coyote. As one of the characters said, it's coyote. But anyways, yeah, he's scary. He's like scraggly, he's like creepily tall, he's glowing eyes, sharp teeth. Yeah, I'd be scared of him too. And with ranking, as far as that goes, honestly, I would love to buy this movie secondhand. I would love to watch it again. And now onto one of my all-time favorite movies ever, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. This movie came out on September 18th, 2009 from Sony Pictures. To start off, I would love to express how much I adore this movie. Literally every moment in this first movie is so captivating, so funny, so entertaining. Literally no bad notes about this movie already. I'm just telling you. This will be going at the top. Already telling you. I laughed out loud multiple times during this movie. There are so many moments where the characters are just animated in a silly way, where they say something, or you just have to watch it and you will be laughing the entire time. And it's got Bill Hader and Anna Faris. Like, funny.
I wanted a Doppler Weather Radar 2000 Turbo, but all the kids used to taunt me with this lame song. It wasn't even clever. 4 eyes, you need glasses to see.
The world design is impeccable. Originally called Swallow Falls, later known as Chew and Swallow, it is a little island in the Atlantic Ocean right under the A in the map.
My dream was to help my hometown, a tiny island hidden under the A in Atlantic, called Swallow Falls.
That detail is so perfect. So Swallow Falls, or Chew and Swallow later on, is known for their sardines. The people in the town are forced to eat sardines every single day for every single meal because the rest of the world finally realized how gross sardines are, so no one is buying them anymore.
Soon, all of us were stuck eating the sardines that no one else wanted. Poached, fried, boiled, dried, candied, and juiced.
There is absolutely no misogyny or bigoted jokes in this movie, other than the fact that there's a cop that just tackles people for jaywalking, but Anyways, so with casting, I already said we got Bill Hader, we got Anna Faris, but then there is Steve the Monkey. Now, I never really looked up the cast for this movie because I only knew the 2 stars. And yeah, so when I looked up the cast for my notes, I discovered that Steve the Monkey is voiced by none other than Neil Patrick Harris, and I find that to be so incredibly funny. The age rating for both Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 1 and 2 is PG, so it's good for everyone. A joke that I wanted to talk about during this movie, going back to movies having a lot of bigoted jokes and a lot of unnecessary comments and stuff like that, this movie is another wonderful example of how you don't need that crap. One of the funniest moments is when the mayor is up on stage, he's talking about the ceremony, this guy won a contest, he walks up stage, he's Australian, and he says, "Didgeridoo, I won." It's too good. So the villain in this movie is Mayor Shelbourne, and his character is so funny, so good. Now, yeah, he does cause literally the entire issue of the Flint's fur, like, not going well, you know, the second movie. But basically, Mayor Shelbourne is a very self-centered guy. He's a gluttonous guy, I would say. So basically, he keeps ordering food on the Flimsimeter. And by the way, if you've never seen the movie, the Flimsimeter stands for the Flint Lockwood Diatomic Super Mutating Dynamic Food Replicator. And the mayor just keeps ordering more and more, which is overloading this machine, and things go wrong. He says a line in the beginning of the movie, back when he was a little mayor. He literally says, "I want to be a big mayor. I want people to look at me and say, that's a big mayor." And at the end of the movie, that is precisely what he is. So of course, I have to rank this movie in the perfect family harmony, because I could watch this movie over and over again. No bad notes. And of course, because I watched the first film, I had to include the second. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 came out on September 27th, 2013, 4 years after the first one. The second movie, right off the bat, I love it. In my 2023 secondhand haul, I did say that I thought the second movie was better than the first, and after rewatching them, I'm gonna have to retract that statement, and I will tell you why. So, is this movie entertaining and does it keep my attention? Yes, it definitely does. But to be honest with you, I feel like this movie is geared a bit more towards younger kids. It's still perfect, beautiful, funny in every way, but I noticed that, and I was kind of like, Does this movie make me laugh out loud or giggle on the inside? I laughed out loud a few times. There are so many food puns in this movie. That seems to be one of the only kind of jokes that they make, which is fine, but it's a lot of food puns. But one that I refer to all the time is there is this little frog butter on like this like maple syrup river thing, and he just goes, "Butter, butter." It's funnier in the movie, okay? Going back to the first movie, I can't believe I forgot to say this about the soundtrack. We have Miss Miranda Cosgrove and her song, "It's Raining Sunshine." And now that movie came out in 2009, she was still doing iCarly. So she was doing the best of both worlds. But back to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, the soundtrack is just as good, but this time at the end credits, we have Cody Simpson in his song, "La-da-dee-na-na-na-doo, there's only me, there's only you." It's catchy. Did this movie make me cry? Yes, it did. At the end, when the Flimsimeter is about to be messed with by Chester V, the villain, we'll talk about him. All of the animal creatures are about to die away, and it's just so sad, because there's like this family of marshmallows, and then the family of water melon elephants, water elephants. And yeah, that just makes me sad. The world design in this movie is so spectacular. So in the first movie, they're in Swallow Falls, but then because of all of the food taking up the island and everything, it's not inhabitable. They are forced to move to San Fran Jose, basically like a San Francisco type vibe. But they are forced to go to San Fran Jose because the Thinquanauts forced them out of Swallow Falls so they could get rid of all of the animal creatures. Was this movie memorable? Yes, 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 yes. Now, like I said, I thought it was better than the first one, but with all the food puns and it being geared more towards kids, and just the fact that the first movie is so iconic, like no bad notes about the first movie at all. And when I'm done watching, I had a grin on my chin. These movies are so lighthearted and I just love watching them. Could you hear that? Does this film speak on any relevant morals or issues or topics? For the second movie, I would say the overall moral lesson is to follow your gut and to trust those around you who you trust, and don't just blindly follow your idols like sheep. Swifties. Do I refer to this movie in everyday life? Yes, yes I do. Like I said, I love to say butter, but also in the first movie, I don't know how I forgot to talk about this. It's such a pivotal moment in the first movie. When the very first food comes out of the flinsaminifer, it says cheeseburger. And I just love the way it talks. And so, whenever I see the word cheeseburger, I say it like that. The villain in this movie is Chester V. He is an extremely orange guy who's bald and moves very interestingly. I love it. It's funny. But yeah, this dude is the CEO, the head girl boss of Live Corp, which backwards spells evil. But some funny moments from this movie that I would love to shine a light on, because there are so many food puns, and yeah, they're funny, but the jokes are joking. In the beginning, when they are still in Chew and Swallow, they are writing up their plans for the future. They all have their colorful crayons and they're adding to this drawing. And then Steve the monkey draws with a brown crayon. It's not a crayon. Hey, I'm editing and I could not find a clip or a single photo of Steve drawing with his poo. Maybe that's a good thing that Google wasn't showing me stuff like that. But I did find this. I hope it will suffice.
Poop. 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 Poop.
Another funny thing with Chester V is that he said he was personally called in by the United Nations to help Swallow Falls in their food catastrophe. Personally called in by the United Nations is... There are so many other jokes, and you guys just gotta watch these films. You're really gonna enjoy them if you haven't seen them already. And I really don't have bad notes about this movie, but because the first one is so iconic and I do put it above the second one, I'm gonna put Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 in, yeah, I'd buy this secondhand, which I did. The very next movie that we're gonna be talking about today is Robots. This movie came out on March 11th, 2005 from Blue Sky. Alrighty, so like the Lego Batman and a few others, I did not recall this movie. Even going into it, I was like, what's happening? This is a brand new movie to me. Like, I recalled all of the characters, and I remember visually every scene. However, the lore, the plot, I was like, what is this? But I enjoyed it. When it comes to humor in this movie, yes, there are some very funny moments, very iconic moments, like Aunt Fanny not being able to get through her own house because her fanny is so big. But there are also quite a few other moments where there are interesting things being said that threw me off. Now, with the bigoted and misogynistic jokes in this movie, I guess there was already an entire dispute about this a few years back. I missed out on it, and so let's talk about it again. Like I said, I didn't remember the plot of this movie. I didn't remember much of what was happening during the movie. I'm sorry. Is that like gonna be in the video? There's no lightning outside. I'm sorry. Fuck. But anyways, about those jokes, this movie was very anti-trans to me. There were, like, I get they're robots, but their parts, all the part jokes, their roles that they had, just things like that I was like, oh. But there were some funny moments, like this. The name's Fender. Used to be Bumper, but I moved it when we moved into the country. Did I cry? I honestly did not think that I would cry, but the ending got me. It wasn't even sad, it was just a happy ending. Everyone got a happy ending, and it was just so happy. With the character designs and the way that they're written, I think it is so unique, so cool, and you really don't see characters like this anymore. Not that there's a lot of robot movies, but it's just really unique. Each character is designed in such a cool way. They each have their very specific look, and some of the characters even remind me of the creatures from 9, like the villains that we'll talk about later. Now, the world design, I would describe it as Meet the Robinsons meets Dr. Seuss. It is so fun, nothing makes sense, like, scientifically. There seems to be, like, no gravity at certain points in their world. It doesn't make sense, but it's beautiful, it looks cool. Now, with the casting, it's an all-star cast, but it's a white cast. We have the icon Robin Williams, rest in peace. He played Fender Pinwheeler, and his character actually brought so many jokes to the movie. I was like, damn, that's real funny.
I'm singing in the oil. I'm singing in the oil. After all that work and toil, I'm just slipping in the oil.
We have stars like Obi-Wan Kenobi, aka Ewan McGregor, aka my Scottish King. Hi! Hello? Hello? We have the world-renowned Jennifer Coolidge as Aunt Fanny. We have Amanda Bynes, Stanley Tucci, Halle Berry, Natasha Lyonne, James Earl Jones, Paul Giamatti, aka the Big Fat Liar. Well, you walked over here. Guys, it's Olive. She woke up from her nap. Yes, she doesn't like the ring light, so I'm gonna put her down. Okay, so the main character, I didn't write his name down. It's this. But basically, his story is that he is a kid inventor, and his idol is secretly evil. And that just reminds me of Flint Lockwood. Also, he said this: I'll never be anyone here. I need to get to the big city to be someone. And then he leaves on a train. Judy Hopps. Okay, going back to the misogyny, I just saw this in my notes. Well, I guess one of the villains in the movie is a big creepy boss man who is creepy towards his lady employee. And he does that throughout the entire movie, and I feel like no one talks about that. So, hate him. But anywho, were there any relevant issues, morals, or topics? Yes. Daddy Dishwasher said this: a dream that you don't fight for can haunt you for the rest of your life. And that is so true. When I'm done watching, how do I feel? Well, the very last scene in that movie, like I said, all happy, all good feels, and they're playing the song Get Up Off of That Thing, and bless you. Now, the villain in this movie is Madam Gasket, but also equally her son. Phineas T. Ratchet is the son's name. But they own the Chop Shop, which is basically a giant factory where they produce parts for the newer robots, the more pristine upper class robots, and so the older lower class robots who can no longer afford to buy new parts can't buy new parts or any upgrades because this brand, Chop Shop, doesn't make anything for them. If this movie didn't have so much transphobia and misogyny in it, I would love to put this in, yeah, I'd buy this secondhand. I don't even know if I'm gonna put it in, I'd put this on for my nephew. Because the good parts are really good, they're really funny, but the bad parts really throw you off. So, well, that was a movie. Sorry guys, I gotta put at least one thing in that category. But now we are going to get into a big series that I'm glad I'm including it here because there's a lot that I have to say about it. That is Ice Age. The first film came out on March 15th, 2002 from Blue Sky Studios. It was an instant hit, it's been a classic, it's been a lot of people's favorites for a long time, and for good reason. It's a very iconic movie, and the baby. So let's get into it. Is this movie entertaining? Yes. Yes, it is. If you have somehow never seen this movie, never seen any of these movies, there is Scrat the squirrel, and he basically causes every single cataclysmic event that occurs during these movies. Like, without him, we wouldn't have any of these movies. We probably would still have mammoths walking around today. Is this movie funny? Yes. I was giggling within the first minute. There are so many silly, stupid jokes that just left me, like, giggling. Throughout the entire film, they actually make references to the films after this. I don't know if they were already planning or just like, hey, let's throw in some random stuff and let's make movies about it after. But there's a scene where they are going through the ice tunnels and Sid the Sloth encounters an entire UFO, which we later see in Collision Course. Yeah. The soundtrack, of course, we all know the iconic song that goes with this first movie that I thought actually went with all the other movies, but apparently it's just the first. But then we have Food, Glorious Food, which I remembered so well. That song is engraved in my head with the dodo birds and the little hamsters that just run off the side of the cliff. This movie is certainly made for all ages. It has jokes for little kids, adults. It all just hits good. It's comedy gold, really. And did I cry? Yes. I thought I could get through it without crying, but the ending got me. The part with the baby reuniting with his family. But I guess I really only grew when he had to split up with the animals, because that's sad. Character design, I think, is incredible for these movies. Well, I guess with the first one more so. We don't really know what these extinct animals looked like unless there were cave drawings or we find bones or... yeah, I mean, I'm not traveling back in time to look. But the way they're designed is so cool because it literally looks like the cave drawings brought to life. The world design, it's Earth. It can't get more beautiful than that. However, it's sad to see all of the things that happen to it throughout these movies, but hey. The casting for this movie, I was about to say it was incredible. I mean, it's iconic, but it certainly is not diverse, at least in the first movie. There wasn't a super obvious message, which is kind of different for a kids movie, but I guess it's basically put aside your differences, learn to work together, and the world's gonna change inevitably.
But like, inevitable?
This movie really stood out to me though because of how accepting they were of, I guess, like queer animal relationships, poly relationships. Like they were very vocal about that, very like, yeah, this is us. And I'm like, okay, cool. Do I refer to this movie? Yes, I do. Every single time I see a dandelion, I think of the scene where Sid goes, "The last dandelion," and he picks it up, and then the rhinoceros cannot eat it.
You know, you have really tiny brains. Did you know that? No, it's just a fact. No offense. Well, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yummo. A dandelion. Must be the last one of the season.
Oh, Carl. Easy, Frank. He ruined our salad.
So the villain in this movie is Soto, and he's the same type of tiger as Diego. Why? I was about to call him Manny. Diego, the tiger. So to rank this movie, because I really had no bad notes, it was a very accepting movie, and it's just funny and iconic, nostalgic all around. I'm putting it in the perfect family harmony. Next up we have Ice Age 2, The Meltdown. This movie came out on March 31st, 2006, and actually all of the Ice Age movies come out 4 years after one another, and that's pretty cool. So this movie I would describe to you basically as global warming meets Noah's Ark. The humor in this movie, it had some pretty good jokes. There were a lot of really good ones, honestly, but comparing it to the first one knocks it out of the park. Okay, so looking at my notes, apparently with the soundtrack, they did include Send Me On My Way in this movie, but I guess it was only just once, and that was the final time. But speaking of music in this movie, if you have seen the second film, you will know about the lullaby. This lullaby plays so many times throughout the movie to the point where I was getting quite annoyed whenever it would pop up. I'd be like, oh, again. This movie is definitely made for all ages, but I think the second one is geared more towards kids. The first one, for the whole family. Now, did I cry? Yes. Ellie the mammoth, when she has her childhood flashback to being lost and then finding Eddie and Crash under that tree, that made me sad. The characters are written really good in this movie. They actually have a lot more personality, which is something that every character should have. Again, I love how they're all drawn like the cave drawings, and it's really cool and unique. The world in the second movie is again beautiful, but now everything is melting. And I mean, we aren't having such a cold winter right now. I mean, there's snow behind me, of course, right now, but it's been pretty warm, and so now with the cast, we still have all the OGs, but this time they added even more OGs, like Queen Latifah. We've now got Josh Peck as Eddie, and we have so many more. Now, with the relevant issues, moral topics in this movie, I genuinely could not pick up on anything other than global warming. Like they're just animals trying to live. But then after Googling for the lesson, I have to include this. Google says, the wonderful moral of this movie is that boys are supposed to meet girls and form a family to propagate their own kind. That's what you got from this movie? I didn't get that. Now this movie is certainly memorable. I think I honestly watched this one more than the first growing up because we had it on DVD or maybe VHS in 2006. I don't know, maybe DVD. But yeah, I watched this movie a whole lot, so I remembered all of it. The villains in this movie, because the earth is melting and the ice is melting, there are some prehistoric, even more prehistoric creatures coming up. And so we have Cretaceous and Maelstrom, which Google says are their names even though they didn't talk at all during the movie. I didn't know they had names, but these two water dinosaurs are very scary and they try to eat everyone, and so I'm not a fan. And when I'm done watching, how do I feel? I really enjoyed this movie. It was so fun to watch again, and it was just really funny and lighthearted, and yeah. In regards to ranking though, I think I would just put this on for my nephew. Yeah. I have to sigh because we're going on to the third movie in the installment, and this is my least favorite for so many reasons. So the third movie is Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. This came out on July 1st, 2009, also from Blue Sky. And yeah, let's just talk about it. So, is this movie entertaining? Yes and no. I don't think I laughed out loud at any point in this movie. Well, no, I take that back. There was one moment where I giggled. My assistant and I, as we were researching for this movie, yeah, that was a moment where we both giggled. And it's just silly nonsense, and it's this.
I hung on to that sucker, and I swung back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, and forth, and back, and forth, until finally I let go, and I shot right out of his mouth.
And yeah, that was like the funniest, most lighthearted joke. The rest were very bigoted. I was like, whoa. Already telling you now, I wouldn't show this to my nephew. So this movie is just bigoted in so many ways, and I wrote the jokes down, so let me tell you about them. The first one was code blue, or code pink if it's a girl. It was either Manny or Diego who said this next one, but they said, guys punching each other on the arm is like 6 months of therapy. What a wonderful thing to say in a kid's movie where children soak up everything and they want to be like these characters, and they see this strong male role saying this. Also, going back to Manny, the mammoth, he's really mean in this movie. Like, yeah, he had a little snappy, snarky attitude in the first two, but this one, he's like mean. He's bullying Sid through the entire thing, and I just feel so bad for Sid in this movie. However, Sid has a really nice arc that we will talk about. So, with characters, really the only new character in this movie is Buck Wild. And Buck, what an interesting character that they made. The world design, I actually really like it in this movie because we finally explore the world of the dinosaurs. And funny thing about that, so the Ice Age animals are living above on the ice. And this entire time, they didn't know that there were dinosaurs underneath them. And so one day, the ground cracks open and they go down there. And apparently that is their first time ever seeing the dinosaurs. And I'm making this a thing now because we're going to talk about this in a later movie, and just very contradicting. But anyways, the dinosaur world is beautiful. It is like a giant ice tropical cave, if that makes sense. I don't know how it does make sense. The ceiling is just like a giant ice cave. It's so beautiful, and it's so lush and tropical, and the world is just beautiful. So going back to the joke's humor, Buck Wild, the new character, is played by Simon Pegg. Now, to my knowledge, I have nothing against Simon Pegg, but his character in this movie, one of the things that I had to write down that Buck said, he said a lot, but one of the things was, let me tell you about the time I used a knife to make a T-Rex a T-Rachel. Just think about it. However, there were some funnier moments, and I have to include these to counteract all of the crap that Buck has done throughout this film. So Sid the Sloth, everyone's favorite sloth, like I said, he was being bullied hard in this movie. However, he did say fuck gender roles, and then he became a mother. And yeah, he mothered a few dinosaur eggs. I will put this clip. And then one other joke is, I knew him back when he was a caterpillar. You know, before he came out. So the villain in this movie is Rudy. He's an albino baryonyx, which is a type of dinosaur that I have never heard of before. And literally the only reason that he is the villain in this story is because he's trying to get back at Buck, because Buck used his knife to remove a tooth, or no, how did he get the tooth? I don't know. He stole a tooth from this dinosaur, and so that's why the dinosaur hates him, and I would too. So yeah, quite an interesting movie. The funny parts were funny, but the bad parts really overshadowed everything, and so honestly, I will be putting in, can't get that hour and a half back, because that's how I feel. Did you think we were done with Ice Age? Because we're not. We're only halfway done. And now on to the fourth movie, Continental Drift. This came out on July 13th, 2012 by Blue Sky Studios. I really hope the third movie didn't put you off too much, because literally every other Ice Age movie is pretty dang good, especially this one. Continental Drift. So I would say this movie starts out to be one of the most intense children's movies that I've ever seen. It's about the Great Divide, Pangea. Everything is splitting up, the earth is cracking and rotating and readjusting, and the animals now have to flee from their home, and they all get split up, and Manny, Diego, Sid, and his grandma, I forgot her name, Wanda Sykes' character, amazing. But they're stuck out at sea, and that's where the plot starts. This movie I would describe as like Lion King 2, basically where Timon and Pumbaa have to watch the royal kids. It's very similar. I mean, every kids movie is similar to the next one, but oh my god. Guys, this movie is funny AF. I was hooting and hollering. So many good jokes. No bigoted jokes. No misogynistic jokes. Just good old humor. The soundtrack for this movie, okay, 2012. The world is ending. Music had to be amazing. And honestly, one of my favorite songs from my childhood, still one of my favorites today, was in this movie. The song that they put in this movie, literally when they introduced Drake's character, is Chasing the Sun by these guys. This movie is made for all ages. It's made for kids, made for adults, all ages. It's just classic. Did I cry? Yes. Going back to Pangea, I wasn't alive during that time, but experiencing it through a movie is pretty intense, especially for a kids movie. Like the way, I mean, I know they gotta make it real, right? But that was a lot. So with characters, I mentioned Drake. He's in this movie. He plays like a teenage, early young adult mammoth. His character is precisely how you would imagine Drake as a mammoth. If you've ever thought about him as an animal, he would be this. He's literally just a fuckboy mammoth. It's him. And I have to share this fact. I watched this movie on the day that Drake dropped his video selfie. Yeah, so another new character that we have in this movie that, wow, Nicki Minaj. She's been talked about a lot recently, and I have so much to say about her. I already talked about her on my Instagram if you want to go look at those posts. But yeah, she plays like just a bully in this movie. She's just a bitch bully. And that is precisely how I imagine her to be in real life. So it's just very fitting. She's a mammoth, of course. So to add on to this cast, with every Ice Age movie, I feel like they add 5 new characters to the cast. Even the main cast, it's a whole lot. Every new movie, you're like, oh, new people, new animals. But yeah, we have even more. In this movie, we now have Peter Dinklage, we have Jennifer Lopez, Josh Gad, who his character is never to be seen again, even though he's Peach's best friend. That's another part of the lore that I'm like, okay. We have Wanda Sykes as the grandma. She cracks me up in this movie, and the next one too. We have Jeremy Renner of the Jeremy Renner app, Rebel Wilson, Patrick Stewart, and so many more. And even with the cast having Nikki and Drake, there were surprisingly like no bigoted jokes. Nikki was just a bully, but she wasn't like how she is in real life, I guess, you know. But yeah, that makes me even more confused about the third movie, Dawn of the Dinosaurs. Like, I get it was 2009, and that was like the prime time to be just a slimy slug to other people. But wow, the Jurassic jump from the third movie to the fourth, insane. Was this movie memorable? Now, to be honest with you, I don't recall seeing this ever in theaters, but then it started playing and then I'm like, oh, I remember seeing this in theaters. With relevant issues, morals, and topics and that such, like all the other movies, it's just basically the Earth going through its changes. Yes, there are some other small creatures trying to eat them along the way, but it's literally the same thing. Except in this movie, Peter Dinklage is the Captain Guts. He is a Gigantopithecus, which is an extinct ape kind of creature. I mean, he's a pretty gnarly looking guy. I would easily compare him to the guy that plays Blackbeard on the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. He looks like that, but ape. I really like the character design. It's different, it's unique. Who knew we would have pirateer animals? Going back to the relevant issues, morals, and topics, sorry, I'm jumping back and forth. Google said that the lesson of this movie is that reading is fun. The movie about Pangea and pirates is about reading is fun. When it comes to ratings, I would definitely put this in. Yes, I'd buy this secondhand. And 4 years later, on July 26, 2016, Blue Sky released Ice Age Collision Course. Now, I had never seen this Ice Age. I think at this time in my life, I was like, I'm too cool for kids' movies, so I'm gonna stop watching them. Even though I was hounding over Zootopia and Moana. Anywho, guys, I honestly think Collision Course, the 5th movie, is just as funny, if not maybe funnier than the first. Like, it's so good. The writers, they said, let me pop off for this last one. And you might be thinking, last one? There's still another. We'll get into that. I laughed out loud like Hilary Duff so many times during this movie. It was actually unbelievable. I guess I was just so put down by the third movie that I'm like, it's not gonna hit. But it did. With the soundtrack, nothing was memorable, nothing popped out, which it's okay. The story was really good. However, I noticed that there was no lullaby. Absolutely no lullaby. I don't know how I don't know how you couldn't include that super annoying little snippet of audio. Why wouldn't you include that in all your movies, guys? Come on. My battery is low, I need to hurry up. Did this movie make me cry? Yes. Yes, it did. Okay, So characters, another Ice Age movie. Let's add 10 more people to the cast. You already know the drill. But this one had some new characters that really reminded me of Zootopia, which also came out in 2016, but these movies were just a few months apart. So in Collision Course, basically the whole plot is that every millennia or so, there is a giant meteorite that strikes down and extincts everyone in that area. They're gone. Goodbye. And so Buck, he's back. However, he's okay in this movie. He actually figures out that there is a source of attraction that is pulling this meteorite. It's just the crash source that, yeah, you know. So basically these animals have to figure out a way to redirect this giant meteorite that's firing towards Earth, and they have to redirect that gravitational pull somewhere else so that they don't die. The animals did that. But anyways, with the world, there is like this crystal geode temple kind of thing, and it heavily screams Zootopia. Like, if you've seen that movie, you see this clip, you're gonna be like, whoa. There's also a Sri Lama in this, in this movie, also very heavily influenced by Zootopia, vice versa. Maybe it's just a wacky coincidence, I don't know. But then we also have Brooke the Sloth, which becomes Sid's little boo thing, but she's voiced by Jessie J. Nothing against Jessie J. She has a wonderful voice. I'm sure she's cool. But I just think of her video.
Stay.
Yeah, but the world design is just beautiful. That crystal temple, gorgeous. I want to be there. Are you kidding me? Now, when we talk about humor in this movie, they did a great job. There was one thing that I was like, oh. I don't know who it was, but they were holding a pumpkin. Oh, okay. Another part of the lore, Buck Wild has a child and it's a pumpkin. But anyways, I think it was Sid who asked Buck, how do you know it's a girl? And then the stem falls off. But in this movie, we now have some new icons, and we have Neil deGrasse Tyson, who plays himself as a weasel. Was this movie memorable? I would say, well, I've never seen it before, but I would love to watch it again, and I'm remembering it. When I'm done watching, how do I feel? I really enjoyed this movie. I loved the ending. Literally, the whole movie was just great, lighthearted, good fun. The animals literally prevented the next mass extinction by redirecting that comet's gravitational pull. So, slay. Relevant issues, morals, topics. I'll just put what Google has, because guys, I'm giving up with Ice Age and their lessons. It's just the Earth. The villain in this movie is Gavin. He's a Dacopteroraptor. He's the father of two henchmen, Roger and Gertie. Why am I not recalling these names? I don't think they said their names in the movie. Yeah, I don't think he's a villain. I mean, he's just an animal trying to get food, and he steals eggs. Like, yeah, that isn't the best, but to rank this movie, I would put it in the perfect family harmony. And just when you thought we were done with Ice Age, no. In 2022, Disney bought the Ice Age rights, so no more Blue Sky, RIP. They decided to make a movie with a different title, The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. This came out January 28th, 2022. I didn't even know it occurred. I didn't know it was a thing until I was Googling for this video, and I thought it was like a short, like a little spin-off short 20-minute thing. No, it's an entire movie about Buck Wild. Well, actually, okay, there's three main characters, Buck, Crash, and Eddie. They brought back Crash and Eddie, But since it's Disney, they said goodbye, Josh Peck, Nickelodeon boy, and they replaced Eddie with some other voice actor, and it's just different. So, is the Buck Wild, the Ice Age adventures of Buck Wild, is it entertaining? No. I came in open-minded because I saw how Blue Sky did a wonderful job with the 4th and 5th movies after that horrible 3rd one. So I wanted to come in open-minded, although I was like, it's a movie about Buck. But yeah, when it instantly started, for like the first half hour, honestly, it felt like a brand new thing. It felt like somebody had a basic idea of what Ice Age was. They didn't watch any of the movies, maybe the first one, but they didn't watch anything after that. They had very little knowledge of the lore, and they just decided to put out another one. Like, it didn't make sense to me. The humor in this movie, it didn't have Buck's typical humor, which is good, although it didn't seem to have any humor. The only part, literally the only part that I giggled at was when Orson, the villain, one of his henchmen was mocking him, doing the same motions. I found that funny, but that was the only thing that I found funny in this movie. So the soundtrack for this movie, I think they only licensed one song, and it's Bad Boy. They played it once during the movie, and then that was the first song they played at the end credits. It didn't really fit the movie, and I just found it funny. Oh, but then they also played Ye Olde Lullaby one more time for the OG fans. So that was your first time watching any Ice Age movie and you watch that, you're probably like, what is this? But I know. The age range for this movie is interesting. It's rated PG like all the other Ice Age movies, although I feel like it is directly targeted only at kids, like little kids. So, like I said, the lore kind of really changes up a lot in this movie. I talked about it a bit in the 3rd Dawn of the Dinosaurs movie, but this movie, they go back to the dinosaur world, and apparently other mammals that were on top of the ice have been living in the dinosaur world the entire time. They are regulars there, like they live there. And Manny and Ellie and the others, the gang, they knew about these other animals down there, which totally contradicts the Dawn of the Dinosaurs movie. Like, that's the whole point, is they discover the dinosaur world. But anyways, did I cry? A little bit, surprisingly, but only because it was Ellie's flashback of her growing up with Eddie and Crash, which I do appreciate how they included a little bit more of that, so we actually saw them like growing up and stuff. But that's it. The character design and writing, it's like they kind of all lost their personality except for Buck, Crash, and Eddie, and Disney's said fuck the budget. My assistant compared the animation to Sophia the First. I love Sophia the First, but I will admit the animation is interesting and very cheap looking. The world design, well, nothing new. We're going back to the dinosaur world, where the other animals have been living the entire time. So they changed up the cast quite a bit. Ellie is no longer Queen Latifah, but Dominique Jennings. Josh Peck, aka Mr. Nickelodeon, is no longer Eddie. Sid, oh my god. They changed Sid's voice, along with so many others, which really threw me off. And I get it's a whole new studio, everything's new, but it's like they didn't have any of the original writers or anything to give any kind of input. But that's just Disney for you. There were no misogynistic or bigoted jokes, however, there weren't any jokes to be found. When I'm done watching, how do I feel? I can honestly say that I was so excited to turn the TV off. I was so antsy and I was just typing notes on my phone just so I didn't have to watch. It really wasn't entertaining. Again, very like young, tiny tot movie, something you put on in the background where no one needs to know what's happening. It's just something happening. The only lesson that I got from this movie is from Orson and his henchmen, that they were blindly following him like sheep. And I mean, just use your own noggin, I guess. Do I refer to this movie? No, I didn't know this movie existed until about 2 weeks ago. So going back to the villain, Orson, he is a Protoceratops, which is another dinosaur that I have never heard of, but I looked him up and he doesn't actually look like a Protoceratops. Orson looks like a Triceratops head with a T-Rex body, but then his brain is huge. Now, I didn't see that characteristic on any of these other dinosaurs, so I'm confused, but I guess it just has to go with the story. Yeah, so this movie was really something else. The way that they changed up the lore was laughable. Like Ellie, part mammoth, part possum, always sleeping from a tree, was sleeping on the ground. They didn't mention their daughter Peaches once. Like in the beginning, they had like a little flashback from each movie. They didn't show her, they didn't mention her. I don't know what that means. So to rate this movie, I would very easily put it in, I can't get that hour-and-a-half back. Hey! Before you guys dip, I just wanted to say thank you so very much for the support on my 2 previous uploads, my Get Ready With Me for my 23rd birthday dinner, and my 2023 secondhand haul. I don't know where all you guys are coming from, but thank you so much for your support, and I hope you stick around because I love to have you here. Also, thank you so much for 600 plus subscribers. What? Your support truly means like so much to me, and I know I say this at the end of every video and it sounds so scripted because I did write it down, but it's something that I really do mean. And thank you so much for being here, and I hope you'll subscribe and like this video if you did enjoy it. Also, as you may have noticed, I did invest in a microphone, so I'm kind of like really girl bossing here. I noticed other YouTubers have a similar small like clip-on microphone, and they'll put it on like the end of a pencil. I was thinking like a paintbrush, or maybe I can make like a cute little flower wand. I don't know. If you guys have any ideas, please let me know, and if it's something really cursed, that's even better. Like I mentioned, this is only part 1 of this animated movie tier list rating series, so stay tuned for more because I have so many amazing movies planned out and I'm already starting to take notes on some of them. So like and subscribe for more animated movies, more giggles, more Olive, more fun times. And remember, keep slaying, keep boycotting, keep speaking up for Palestine, and...
One more. Let me see.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh, what is wrong with me?
Thanks for coming, Richard.
Oh my, Ray! Are you alright? Just hang in there, Ray. I got you.